So, good evening, my friends, and tonight we are going to make a bit of a tentative start, and that tentative start is going to be on the monsters or the enemies. So, with that in mind, we're going to close all of this down. Then we're going to create a new C++ class, and it's going to be a character, and we're going to go next, and we're going to say enemies, and we're going to say call this CPP base enemy, and we are going to create the class. So we need to let this run for a minute. And it kind of always gives me this crash report that I have to close in the task manager, and then it basically does what it needs to do. Don't know what's going on there, but we won't argue it. It's doing its thing. Right now, the only reason that I create the C++ class is that if I want to use it later. Okay, so if we want to move some of the code into the C++ class, then it's already there for us, and all our classes or blueprints that will be basically created from this class. Okay, so that is the idea behind this. I normally do this. Now I tried to do it with an actor component, and that doesn't seem to work. Now I did talk to my guys that are more into the C++ side of things, and they basically said that you can't really create an actor component C++ class, which I found a bit weird, but well, let's not worry about that. So anyway, this takes a minute or two. And then we will be creating our structure and any related enums that we might need, which we will, and we can basically take it from there. So let's hope this gets its act in order. Now, what we're going to use is we actually have a robot, which is like a free download from Epic, and we're going to use that as our base for the enemies. Some may be different, some may not. This is a biped, so we may have other types and we may change it completely, but we'll base it on that to start with. Once this actually gets its finger out. And it doesn't seem to have another crash report. So I'm going to go on the fact that it's just taking its time. Come on. Right, so basically what we need to do is do that. Okay, and now we should see it if we open Visual Studio. So let's take a look. Wow, this is taking its time. Come on, you know you want to. I'm getting the horrible idea I'm going to have to move this whole project to my SSD. Right, so now we should have a folder here called enemies. And here it's here. And this is going to be wrong. Oh, in fact, no, it's not. It's going to be right. So what we'll do is we do a build. Right. To make sure this is right. And we'll just tell this to update on close. Okay, so we're off to a pretty slow start for this evening. Right, so we'll probably be turning this off. Right, but what we're going to do here is we're going to delete that, save it, and then rebuild it. Okay. So this takes just a couple of minutes to set up, but as I said, then the CPP class is always available to you if you want to actually move some code in there. If we want to make everything more efficient, and there we go, it is all built. and my Streamlabs is having its wicked way. We can close that down now. And we can compile. Now, if you compile it first in Visual Studio, this doesn't take as long as if you try to do changes then compile. But don't build in Visual Studio. Right, so as you've seen, that didn't take so long. Yeah, whatever. So, what we're going to do now is we don't have an enemies folder, so we're going to create a new folder and we're going to call it, would you believe, enemies, right? And then we're going to create a blueprint class. Then we're going to say CPP base enemy, right? Hi Mama Psycho, I don't understand the "by you speak clear." I don't understand that, but anyway. So we select that and we say BP base enemy. Okay. And this is going to store, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder and we're going to say structures. Then we're going to create another folder and we're going to say enums. Then we're going to create another folder and we're going to call it data tables, and that should about do us for that. Then we're going to go in here and we're going to create a structure and we're going to call it struct base enemy stats. Okay, and we're going to fill that up as we go. Let me just do what we need to do here. Right, whatever, that's done, forget it. Right, so we're going to fill this up as we go, but we know we need a couple of things to start with. And what we'll do is we'll say enemy name, and we shall make that name. We'll say, in fact, we'll not say name, we'll just say name, enemy name, we'll just say name. Then we shall say max HP, which is going to be integer. Then we'll say current HP, and then we shall put down, we'll say a max speed, right, that's going to be a float. And then we'll say current speed, and that's going to be a float. And we'll say mesh, and that's going to be skeletal mesh. Then we're going to say animation BP, and that's going to be animation instance, except it's anim instance. And that is a class reference, so we can save that. Now we're going to have another one, and that's going to be current state, and that's going to be an enum, right? But we'll set it to an integer just now. We'll save that. Okay. Then we're going to go back to enemies, then back to enums. Then we're going to create an enum in here, and this is going to be e enemy state, and we're just going to have like waiting. It's not a very good word for it, waiting, but we'll leave it at that for now. We can have wandering, then we can have moving. Again, we can change these as necessary or add or remove as necessary. We can say attacking, dying, I suppose we can have dead, right, which gives us a couple of extra options. So we have wandering, moving, attacking, dying, dead. Okay. And if we go back to our struct, we should add another one, and that's going to be has target, and that's going to be a bool. And then this current state is going to get changed to e enemy state, and I think we'll reorder these a bit. Okay, so what we'll do is we shall move our mesh up near the top, and we shall move our our animation. Well, I don't, maybe these should be at the bottom, and the numbers that are changing should be at the top. Right, these are always going to get set, and that'll be that. Yeah, so I suppose I should really just put these at the bottom. We'll see how it pans out, and we can move them if necessary. Right. So, now that that's done, we can save that for now. So we have our structure. We have all our other stuff. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is create another new folder, and we'll call that animation BPs. Okay, so if we're going to create an animation blueprint, I mean, there's going to be one base one, right? But we might want different ones for different enemies, right? So we'll set them up differently. Like, we could set one up for like a biped, right? And then we could set one up for like a rolling like truck that's an enemy, right? Which is obviously going to work slightly different, right? And have completely different animations, right? Now, we might want to control some of the biped stuff internally. That's going to be the same for all the bipeds. That won't affect any of the other animations, but we might actually want to control that with the variables in the structure. But for the moment, we're going to go with that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a data table, right? So we got a miscellaneous data table, and it's going to be based on struct base enemy stats. So we okay that, and we say dt underscore enemy stats. So basically that's data table enemy stats. We open that up, and we can basically add a monster or an enemy, and we can name him robot bad, right? And let's say he's going to have 100 hit points, and current hit points, that max speed is going to be 300, which is your basic running speed. Current speed would obviously be 300 as well. This current speed is allowing for like things to be able to slow it down for a period of time. Current state will be waiting. Has target's going to be false. The mesh is that gives us a robot, and we have not got an animation blueprint yet, but we're going to check to see if we've actually got one, right? So have we got a robot? Apparently not. We can use the third person animation blueprint and then just basically muck about with it from that. Right, we'll have a look at that actually. So if we go to, I believe, start third person blueprint, right? Click on blueprints, and we check this out. Then has this got an animation blueprint? Mesh. It's got this animation blueprint, right? So we can take a look at this. And yeah, we can go with this. What's it got? Okay. Try get pawn over. Speed doesn't name speed. Right, cool. That does the speed, that's fine. Okay, we'll go for that. So what I'll do is I shall duplicate that. And we shall call it anim bp underscore enemy base. Well, we should really call it base enemy, shouldn't we? Because that's what we've been calling everything else. So we'll do that. Base enemy. Okay. And what we shall do is we've got enemies, so we just drag this into here. Okay, so we've now got an MVP base enemy. Okay, we can change the preview rocket, or now the interesting thing here is, where's our robot about? Can we add this? We should be able to. Right, where's the sodden robot? It's sci-fi robot, isn't it? Yeah. Meshes. So apparently we can't put it in there. Right, whatever. Right. So we've done all that stuff. And we're going to get enemies, right? And we're now creating a child of this. So this is going to be BP underscore robot. Okay. And in here is where we start doing some of the fun parts. So we delete that. Okay. And in fact, can't think yet, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a variable. Come on. Do what you got to do here. Add a variable, if you don't mind. So this is going to be called base stats. And it's going to be struct base enemy stats. Okay, that's going to be a save. Then go in here, we need to show inherited, so you can now see that we've got base stats. Okay, so we click on the mesh, except we don't, because this is all going to get set from our data table, right? Now we are going to muck about with this a bit, but what we're going to see is get data table row names. Right, now at this precise moment in time we only have one, right, but we'll set this up to pick out a random one anyway, and then we're going to set up all the values otherwise, and this is going to be DT enemy stats, right? Then we're going to get the length of this. Then we're going to take away 1 and then we're going to get integer in range, random integer in range, and that's going to be from there to there. Then we're going to get this again. And are we? Yes, we are. We're going to go into here. And in fact, we don't need to do that. Right, all we need to do is we just get copy. Right, pull this down a bit, pop this in here, and then data table row. That's going to come from here. Then we're going to get data table enemy stats. Pull this in here, drag this down. Then we're going to do break. In fact, well, we are going to do the break, but we're going to do one other thing first, and that is we're going to set up basically our base stats, right? So we're basically going to do that, and we're going to say set, then we're going to drop that in there, and we can delete that. We can break that, and then the mesh, we're going to say set skeletal mesh, and that's going to go in there. And then in here, we're going to drag that to there. We're going to drag off this again, animation. We're going to set animation instance class. We're going to drag that there, and we're going to plug this in here. Okay, we're going to drag this in here. Going to straighten this out. We're going to drag this up to here, and we don't need any of this other stuff. So basically what we're going to do is click on that hide any unconnected, and then we're going to just drag this up a bit and straighten it out. So we straightened to reroute node, and that didn't do it because Streamlabs is having a moment again. Right, so right click on that, straight to reroute. When you go save that, then we'll do a save all. Okay, and now when we jump in here, if we go to data tables now, right, click on that, then the animation blueprint is going to be an MVP base enemy. Okay, so we save that. And then if we go to our maps, and we go to the first map, and we basically go here, then we go to our enemies and we drag in a robot, right? We can press play and there it is. And what we have to do here is we have to say animation mode. Right, so if we go back, yeah, if we go to here, we go to our mesh, and we set the animation mode, right, and we'll do that first. Okay, drag us back a bit, that's fine. Drag these down. Close enough for now. No, they're not. Of course they're not. Straighten. There's nothing more annoying than an off-kilter reroute node. Save that. And now interesting. So at the moment it's not doing anything. Okay, so let me take a look at something. I'm just having a look at a reference to something I did earlier. Okay, so right, that's okay, that's right, so I'm just wondering here, right? If we need to play this, or how this goes, right? So we're using the animation blueprint, we're setting the animation class, but it's not doing what we expect it to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this for now, and I'm going to set these values, right? So I'm going to set this to animation and I'm going to set the actual mesh to sci-fi robot. Okay, so if I now press play, that robot isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is kind of awesome. And apparently we aren't passing in the pawn. Okay. So let's stop that for now. Okay, so we have to go back to the monster. So that's placed in world or spawned. And the controller class we're going to have to create a tree for. Okay. Let's run that again. And we still have no pawn. Okay. So we need to create an AI controller. So we'll stop this for now. Okay. And we shall go a new folder and we shall do AI. And we shall do AI. Oops. And we need to do a blueprint class, then AI controller, and this is going to be AI cont base enemy. Okay, and so while we're at it here, what we'll do is we shall go into our struct, right, and we shall create a new variable. And we'll say AI underscore controller. And it's going to be an AI controller. Okay, so we'll save that, and then if we go in here, well, it's going to be a class reference, which is fine. So back to our struct, and that's going to be AI controller, and it's going to be a class reference. So we save that, then we go back to here, and we say AI controller base enemy. Save that. Now, putting these into the struct gives us ultimate control over these, right? So we can basically select what enemy AI controller it's going to use. We can use what animation blueprint it's going to use, what mesh it's going to use, and all of that good stuff, right? So now when we go into our BP robot, right, we can basically tell it so in here we set up the AI controller class. So we can set up the AI controller class here, and that can go directly into there. We can set that up first. Right? Can save that. Right? And now, do we have a pawn? Apparently not. Okay, okay. I'm doing this in a rather more advanced way than I usually do. Right? Or let's say in a more advanced way than I have done in previous times, shall we say. Right, so if we go to our BP robot, right, and we are not going to set this, we're going to actually just set this manually. Okay, I'm going to save that, click on here, and that's not going to be that. We're going to set that. Now the question is this going to start on its idle? And the answer is no. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break, have a cigarette, I shall be right back, and we shall carry on with this, getting it all set up and it all running nicely, and we shall take it from there. Back in a minute, guys. Okay guys, we're back, and I think we have to make a little change to the AI controller. Right, on recollection, I think we need to do a little bit. So let's have a look at this. Okay. So basically what we do in our AI controller is, if you give me a second, what we do here is we stop this, we go to our AI controller, and we're going to add a variable, and we're going to say ref enemy, right, and it's going to be a BP underscore base enemy, then in our event graph we're going to do on possess now. If this never actually does it, then that's obviously going to be a big problem. So what we do is we cast to BP base enemy, right, and we set our ref enemy to here. Okay, now we can set up our blackboard and all that stuff after this, right? But we want to see if this is actually possessing. And it does. Which means that this should be the correct thing. And it's not, which is a bummer. Which kind of reminds me that in our BP robot we do this again. Now, I'm just wondering here, Interesting. So we say none. And in theory, this should be giving us something back. In here. Anim instance object reference, which we have. We have an anim instance object reference. But it's saying that we have none. Right? Let me do a little bit of reference again. Right, so and let's have a look at this. Okay, so that's weird. Not 100% sure about why this is actually bringing me nothing back. I'm just wondering here if this is a weird one indeed. This is weird indeed. We should definitely have well, that can go away. Let's see if we're getting any errors here, okay, on the robot. Right? I can't imagine we are. Right? Step over, everything's good, everything's good, we're still good, we're still good, and we're still good. The only thing I can think of here is don't reinitialize the pose, but I can't see how that affects anything. We'll resume that. Right, so now what I want to do is I want to have a look at this robot to see what the settings are. So here it's, no, that's Right, so anim based enemy, so that's all good. Yep, that's all good. Mesh. Is good. Everything's good. Guessing the skeletal mesh is going to be good. Right. So the problem here is that our animation blueprint, the try get pawn owner is returning nothing. Okay. So we're going to stop this for now. Right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a variable, and it's going to be our pawn, and it's going to be BP base enemy, and when we set this up in the robot, right, and I'm pretty sure that if we go to the AI, right, we can get an instance. Can we get the anim instance? Yep, we can get the anim instance. Oops, daisy, come on, then we'd be doing that. And we can set this up once in the anim instance. Except we don't want to do that. Yeah, we do. Right. Now what we do is pawn okay, we don't. Save that. Go back to our animation blueprint, and that is going to be open. And set okay, whatever. The interesting thing here is we're going to have to cast this This is where things become a little bit more tricky. I'm just wondering here, right, let's have a look at this. Right, having learned what I've learned, okay, if I set the class settings, I can set an interface. Right, so let's bear that in mind, right? That I can set this via an interface, so I don't need to know what type of enemy it is. I can set the pawn here. Okay. But in the meantime, we'll cast it to this, right? And we'll say set pawn, and apparently right, that's the wrong thing. Right, apparently I've set up the wrong one. Well, that's a bit of a doofus move. Right, so that's why that hasn't got a pawn. Right. So that's going to be BP base enemy. Then we save that. And now if we go back to here, should be able to go pawn. Ah, okay. And that goes in there. Okay. And that's not going to work yet. Right. Because in here we actually get this. And then this goes in here. And it also goes in here. So I presume that. And that still doesn't seem to be working, which is awesome. And that's still none. Alright, that's very interesting indeed. Question is it getting to here? And what I know is that we maybe might need a delay in here. Right, just your standard 0.2 delay. It's just to give it time to update everything before it actually tries to do all of this setup. Okay. And it looks like we are not hitting that. In here. And that's because this fails. Right? Because we don't have this. Right, I'll show you. We're not possessing a pawn. Right, so it's never firing that off. So, what I suggest we do is we don't do that. Okay, but what we do is on begin play. Right, but we need to get this base ref enemy, basically. Right? So if we get the owner, I'm just wondering if this is correct. Should be. But it looks like this AI controller class isn't getting done. Whatever's going on, we are not initializing this class. Okay, so interesting. Interesting problem. And I think on that interesting problem, we're going to finish up for the night. It's been a pretty quiet night. I'm going to do some investigation into this. It looks like that, I'm guessing that this is not, although I'm setting it to the correct AI, it's not possessing. right? Or it's not, the AI is not being set up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to that, right? And we're going to press play again. Now you'll notice that it does it there, right? Now it's still got none, and it's doing the begin play, but it hasn't got an owner. Don't know why. So that's immediately going to fail. I know that. So if you've enjoyed the stream, hit the subscribe and like, and check out the description for the Discord and various other things, including the Patreon, how to support the channel, along with my Steam game. And I shall catch you tomorrow at 2 PM Central. Bye bye for tonight.